Don't be afraid, it's me, Ben from Apex Props. How's it going, guys? Ben with Apex Props here, and I don't have a problem today. But I need to make something for you, so I've created one. This is the first thing I ever made out of foam. It's the first thing I ever made, full stop. This is my EVA foam Boba Fett helmet. I made it in the summer of 2016. I made it on the wooden table of our campsite out of some stuff I bought at Home Hardware. I'm really happy with it. It's pretty special to me, first thing I ever made, and it actually still fits. I can't see out of it because I ruined the plastic sheet by trying to clean off contact cement with acetone. If you've ever tried to clean plastic with acetone, you know exactly what happened. I don't need to tell you. It wasn't good. I need a new Boba Fett helmet. Just watched The Mandalorian, of course. I'm pretty hyped for Mandalorians. As you can see from the progress pics of my personal Mandalorian helmet, I want to make something out of foam. I want to see how much better I've gotten in 5 years. So that's kind of the premise of this video. I want to make another Boba Fett helmet. I want to do the actual Boba Fett helmet. I want to make it out of foam. I'm going to do it all myself. So this I use someone else's patterns for. I want to make my own. This is going to be a two-part video. Part one is going to be making the templates. Part two, which you'll see later, will be actually putting the helmet together. So, I guess, let's go to the shop. So, we're out in the shop. And I'm just gonna go over the plan real quick. I'm gonna head down to Home Hardware real quick, and I'm going to pick up a big sheet of the pink insulation foam. And what we're gonna end up doing, I'm gonna glue a bunch of sheets together, and then I'm going to go over it with sandpaper, a couple of big saws. We're gonna shape it into the general shape of the helmet. I'm gonna show you the whole thing. So let's go down to the hardware store. Hello. I'm looking for a sheet of that rigid pink insulation foam. Alright, we're back in the shop now. I took some time. I found these images of the helmet I want to recreate on the internet. I printed off quite a few here because I'm going to need a lot of reference for what I'm about to do. So, what I am going to end up doing is using these images and my big sheet of pink insulation foam here. I am going to cut off pieces and I'm going to glue a whole bunch of them together. Because this foam is so thin, I'm going to use this, glue a bunch in a sandwich, and then I'm going to trace the shape of the helmet onto this big hunk of foam. On Boba Fett here, I'm going to split it right down the middle. Probably going to end up patterning my left side. When I go and make it out of foam, I'm going to just flip those patterns over so that both sides are symmetrical. That's the plan. I'm going to get chopping this up. All right, let's go. I screwed up. Yep, I screwed up. This is the big stack of foam that I made last night. I did it wrong. If you're following along at home, I really hope you haven't done this yet, because this isn't right. To be honest, I don't even know what I was planning to do with this big hunk of foam, because it is useless for my plan. My plan was to cut out this shape on this side of the foam, and then cut out half of the front helmet, kind of right down the middle there, and trace it on the other side, probably along this front face, and then cut out the shapes on both sides, and then carve it so it looks like half a helmet. This piece isn't big enough for the side of the helmet template that I need. This is barely thick enough, not to mention all the layers are so inconsistent that I just can't use it. What I'm doing is right now, I'm going back down to Home Hardware. I'm gonna get a thicker sheet of foam. I'm going to glue it completely differently than what you saw here. This comes with the territory. I've never done this before. I made a mistake and I'm gonna learn from it. Live and learn. I'm gonna go down to the store. We're gonna get a bigger sheet. All right, we're back out in the shop. I got my foam, yet another sheet. This stuff is way thicker. Also, what I did was last night, after I realized that my other plan wasn't gonna work, I went on my computer, I traced the front half of the helmet profile, and then I also did the side. Gonna cut it out, and then I'm gonna trace this out for sure, make sure that my foam rectangles are thick enough, and then I'm gonna stack them up. It's once again the next morning, and as you can see, I've got my big brick of foam glued together once again. I've got my side profile pattern here, and what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna lay it out on this piece of foam, try and line up the corners. Now, I didn't leave myself a ton of room. In fact, I really didn't leave myself any room, but I should be able to get something usable out of this. I've got it lined up where the whole thing fits on each piece of foam. Bust out my handy dandy big Sharpie and just kind of trying to hold this in place where I know it fits. Perfect, good enough. Now that I've got my side profile, I'm gonna put my front profile on. That looks pretty good right in the middle. Boom. 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 Perfect. I've got my forms traced out. I think I'm going to cut this line first on this piece here, and then I'm going to retrace this, because then I can get it all nice and flat. I'm going to use this saw I found under my desk. So, let's get to cutting. Alright, I got a decent amount of it kind of trimmed down. I've got this entirely flat, which is awesome. So now I can go and trace my other pattern back on there. I've started hacking down the front form, shaved down a lot of the big chunks. So now I only have a little bit of work to do with the sandpaper. Bust out my Sharpie again and trace this guy back on here. I think I'm gonna use my smaller saw, take like the corners off, piece off right up here. Boom. Alright guys, I have done a ton of sanding, I've done a ton of cutting, the shop was a mess, I've cleaned it up, you didn't want to see that, but that disaster birthed this. I'm pretty happy with this. I used the templates pretty faithfully, and of course I rounded over all of the edges, so the back of the helmet slopes quite steeply, mellows out, and then tapers off to the front where the T-visor is going to go. This is the front of the helmet. This is where it starts to get fun, is I'm going to take this roll of masking tape. So, unwrap new roll. Where they hiding you? There you are. Always love starting a new roll of masking tape. Big stretch. Rip a piece off. And I'm going to start just covering the entire helmet, the entire foam form, in a good layer of masking tape. Round this over. Here's one. I'm gonna go another big strip, overlap it a bit, make sure it's nice and flat, roll it over, same thing on this side, boom. Another one. I'm gonna do that all the way up the helmet, and then I'm gonna come back and do strips vertically. I'm taping both directions, so I taped across the helmet, and now I'm taping vertically. I want to make sure I build up a strong layer of tape so that when I draw my patterns on here and I go to peel the tape off the form, I don't want the pieces of tape separated. I want them to stay as one piece. Helmet form's all taped up. So now what I'm doing, I'm going to take a look at my pictures of my helmet, and now I'm going to plan out where I'm going to put my seams. I need to cut this form into multiple smaller forms that I can then glue together and form to make my helmet shape. First things first, I'm going to trace the outside of the T-visor. I know this is my front face. I think that looks pretty good. And now I'm going to run it. It goes quite far up the helmet. So I've got my ruler up as far as I feel like that needs to go. That could be a little bit far. So I've got my bottle of isopropyl alcohol. I'm just going to drip some on the tape, and I can pull down a shop towel and wipe away. Pro tip if you need to erase permanent marker. I think I'm going to go out the side, of course, it's T-visor shape, something like that probably. Probably go a little further out. I call that good enough for now. Now I can trace the ear cups. I'm going to try and trace those out. So they run up kind of a border around the visor, and then it slopes like so. Then it comes pretty much right back to where the visor is, and then it goes straight down. Goes a little bit past it actually. And of course I can look at my reference images I've got one here of the side, and I know that the ear pucks are pretty much smack dab in the center of his helmet, and they're sitting right next to this line. So I'm gonna, it's actually a bit of an angled line. I am not an artist. I suck at drawing. I'm good at putting them together once they are drawn. Artist, I am not. But that looks good enough. Goes right across the top of his helmet. I know that that's all. So there's this sunken detail in here, and then it kind of bottoms out. So like on here, the cheekbones, this part right here. We just drew this, and now I gotta draw this part in. Starts pretty much down here, so I'm gonna go. And then it peaks pretty high up actually. I am not happy with that, but there's a little more alcohol in this rag. Straight down. There we go. I'm happy with that. This strip on the back goes right around his head, so I want to put a seam there. I'm thinking put a seam right along here. I'm going to use my ruler for this. This is the top, and this is the back, and then this is the front. I think I'm going to split this top into two pieces. Let's go kind of right up the middle. I've got this piece, this back piece I'm gonna split up as well. So I'm thinking right back here. All right. Boom, nice clean line. That's what I wanna see. All right, so this is all drawn out now. What I need to do is, once I cut all this out, these of course are going to separate, and I want to be able to line them back up, so I need to make what we call registration marks. So I've got my Sharpie again, and it's as easy as putting lines through the pieces exactly where they line up. So I know when I cut these apart, I can mark those registration marks on my foam, and when I go to glue them together, all I have to do is line up the marks, and I know the piece is going to fit fine. A mark here, here, up here, kind of right in the middle there, and one down at the bottom. Boop, 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 and boop. So now, when I go to glue this whole thing together, I will know where my patterns actually go. I'm going to mark each panel with a letter. This is just to help me put it back together. So I'll know that this piece goes at the front, this connects here, so I'll put, this can be A. And I'm gonna do the same for these two patterns. We'll make this P. P. The seam right up at the front here can be G. There we go. Now I know those two go together. And now I need to do one along this big seam here. And for that I will do F. 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 Right at the top here. F. 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 Nice. I'm going to cut an interior bevel for sure on this part up here. And for sure an exterior bevel on this, because I want them to cave in. Just to mark that, I'm going to dot this seam, and I'm going to dash this seam. Our pattern is all made, actually. Now I'm going to bust out my trusty hobby knife. I'm going to free all these pieces. Check these out, guys. Patterns all done. This was incredibly rewarding to do. It was awesome. And with the slight exception of this bit right here, couldn't really get that to trace properly, but that's just because I suck with the software. The rest of the patterns look fantastic. I really wanted to do a test helmet in this video. I wanted to take my first run of patterns. This was as much a learning experience for me as it was a tutorial for you guys. I ordered glue for my helmet. I'm gonna use it on the full helmet. It hasn't arrived yet, not gonna be here in time. This is where we're gonna leave off this video. In the next video, we of course are going to be making the full helmet in spirit of my original Mandalorian helmet. So, without further ado, my name is Ben. This is Apex Props.